In Laboratory Reddit, today's story is...
My wife left me for a millionaire and my daughter lied to take everything from me, but karma taught them a lesson they will never forget when the police arrived. Hello, I'm 45 years old and never imagined I'd be sharing my story on a site like this. Recent events have left me confused and in need of perspective. This situation is complex, so I appreciate your patience as I explain everything that has happened in recent months. To give you some context, I have been married to Sarah, 43 years old, for 23 years. Together we have 2 children, Emma, 21, and Jack, 17. For most of our marriage, I believed we were happy. Like any couple, we had good times and bad times, but I thought we had a solid relationship. I worked hard as a construction manager to support my family, while Sarah worked part-time as a receptionist at a local clinic. We weren't rich, but we managed well. I thought we had built a stable home together. Things started to change about a year ago. Sarah became distant. She was constantly checking her phone, sending messages to people I didn't know. Her behavior became secretive. She started going out frequently with friends she had never mentioned, saying it was just a new social circle from work. She would come home late, sometimes with the scent of expensive perfume that was definitely not mine. I noticed all these signs, but every time I confronted her, she avoided my questions. She told me that I was exaggerating, that I was being paranoid, and that she just needed space. I didn't want to be a controlling husband, so I stood back, even though my intuition kept telling me that something wasn't right. Emma was the first to really put things into perspective. One day she came to me, visibly upset, and told me that she had seen her mother having lunch with a man she didn't recognize. At first I didn't know what to think. Maybe he was just a coworker, but as the weeks went by, more pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Sarah wasn't just having lunch with this man, she was having an affair with him. The man in question was Robert, 50 years old, a wealthy property developer who had recently moved to our city. He was known for throwing lavish parties and showing off his wealth. Apparently, Sarah had been attending these parties behind my back for months. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. In fact, she showed hardly any remorse. She looked at me as if I were an inconvenience. She told me she wanted a divorce and that she was in love with Robert. I was devastated. After 23 years, she was ready to throw everything away, as if our life together meant nothing to her. But as devastated as I was by her betrayal, what came next was worse. Emma, my daughter, who had always been my pride and joy, sided with her mother. Not only did she support Sarah's decision to leave me, but she even told me that Robert could give them a better life. She said that I had always been a failure, that I had never been able to give them the lifestyle they deserved, and that I had been holding them back. Hearing those words from my own daughter hurt more than I can express. I felt as if the floor had fallen out from under my feet. The divorce process was brutal. Sarah used Robert's money, hired an aggressive lawyer who destroyed me in court. I was portrayed as emotionally abusive, controlling, and neglectful. It was as if they were describing someone else. To make matters worse, Emma testified against me. She told the court that I had anger issues, that I was harsh and cruel to her and her mother, and that I had even threatened them. It was all lies, every word of it. But Emma was convincing. She had always been articulate and confident, and the judge believed her. I couldn't prove otherwise. The court granted Sarah almost everything: the house, most of our savings, and, worst of all, full custody of Jack. In the end, I not only lost my marriage and my home, but also my relationship with my children. I felt as if I had been erased from their lives. Jack didn't want to leave. He was the only one who saw through the lies. He begged the judge to let him stay with me, but as he was still a minor, his opinion didn't carry as much weight. I got visiting rights, but that wasn't enough. Jack was trapped in the house with a man he didn't trust and a mother who had betrayed us both. As if that wasn't enough, Emma took things further and applied for a restraining order against me, claiming she feared for her safety. I hadn't seen her since the court hearing, but now I couldn't contact her at all, even if I wanted to. The court's decision made it official. I was completely excluded from her life. That was 3 months ago. I've been trying to pick up the pieces of my life ever since, but it's been difficult. I moved into a small apartment and immersed myself in my work. The only positive aspect was that I was better off financially. I had saved a sufficient amount of money, and as I was working on several projects simultaneously, I was earning more. For a while, I tried to keep my distance. I thought that maybe time would heal the wounds. Maybe Emma would come to see the truth, But time passed and nothing changed. Sarah moved in with Robert and Emma followed her. They lived in their big house, enjoying the luxurious life that Sarah had always wanted. From the outside, it looked like they had it all: wealth, comfort, and status. Even after everything Emma did with her mother, I wanted to get close and tell her that I had never been the person she claimed I was, but I couldn't. The restraining order prevented me from contacting her, even if I wanted to. I couldn't risk violating the court order, so I remained silent, watching from afar as my daughter suffered. It wasn't long before things took a turn for the worse. Jack would call me secretly from Sarah's house, telling me how much he hated living with Robert, how controlling he was, and how miserable the situation had become. He told me that Robert kept a tight grip on their lives, monitoring their phone calls and conversations. It sounded exactly like the accusations Emma had made against me, but this time it was real. Last week, something completely unexpected happened. I received a series of desperate messages from Emma. I was surprised. Wasn't I supposed to keep my distance because of the restraining order? But as I read her messages, my confusion turned to concern, and then to anger. In her message, Emma explained how Robert had become verbally abusive towards her and Sarah. He controlled their spending, criticized everything they did, and flew into a rage if they didn't obey his rules. He strictly controlled where they went, who they spoke to, and what they did with their time. Emma said he would shout at Sarah in front of her, calling her derogatory names and treating her like property. He criticized her appearance and even commented on her career choices. The man they had chosen instead of me, the one who was supposed to give them a better life, was turning out to be a nightmare. Sarah seemed either ignorant or unwilling to see what was happening right in front of her. She was too interested in Robert's lifestyle to change the situation. The irony was not lost on me. Everything Emma had falsely accused me of, Robert was actually doing, and now she was asking for my help. She said she didn't know what to do and was desperate to get out of the situation, but because of the restraining order, she couldn't even ask me for help directly. I'm torn. Part of me wants to tell her that she made her choice, and now she has to face the consequences. After all, she lied about me, destroyed my reputation, and took everything from me. But another part of me, the part that still loves her as my daughter, wants to help. She's in a terrible situation, and despite everything, I don't want her to suffer. I don't know what to do. Jack is still trapped in that house, and I worry about him every day. I hate that Robert has this power over them. I hate even more that I am legally obliged not to intervene. Part of me thinks that approaching alone would make things worse for Emma, but another part of me knows that she is completely alone in this, and maybe I am the only one who could really understand what she is going through. So I turn to you. Am I a fool if I refuse to help my daughter after everything she has done to me? Or should I find some way to help her despite the restraining order and the legal risks involved? Update 1. After publishing my story, I have been overwhelmed by the responses. Many of you suggested that I stand firm and prioritize my own mental well-being, while others reminded me that Emma, despite her betrayal, is still my daughter. I have spent the last few days reflecting on this, going over all the events in my mind. It is difficult to separate my emotions from logic when it comes to family, especially after everything that has happened. But their comments have given me many perspectives that I had not considered before. Jack has contacted me again. He has been calling me in secret to avoid Robert's suspicions. From what he tells me, things with Robert have escalated rapidly. The controlling behavior that Emma had mentioned in her desperate messages is getting worse. Robert monitors their phone use, tracks their every move, and has started to limit their access to money. Emma and Sarah can't leave the house without telling Robert where they are going and when they will be back. My son described Robert as obsessed with controlling every aspect of their lives. He has heard Robert shout at Sarah for insignificant things like arriving home 5 minutes later than expected. He said the tension in the house is unbearable. Emma, who once thought that Robert was the best option, is now terrified. According to Jack, she stays in her room most of the time, avoiding any interaction with Robert to keep the peace. Sarah, for her part, seems completely resigned now. It seems that the illusion of money and luxury has disappeared for her. Jack says that she has stopped trying to confront Robert and simply obeys all his demands. Hearing this from Jack broke my heart. No matter how much I want to feel justified in my anger towards Sarah and Emma for everything they put me through, knowing that they are living in fear is hard to accept. I want to thank everyone for their responses. I read them all, and they have given me a lot to think about. After much reflection, I realized that, despite everything that had happened in the past, I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. As much as I wanted to ignore their situation, Emma and Sarah are still my family, and I couldn't let my anger overcome my concern for their safety. However, I knew I had to be cautious because of the restraining order. The last thing I wanted to do was violate the court order and make my legal situation worse. I immediately contacted my lawyer to discuss the situation, and he agreed that I needed to proceed with caution. He advised me to document everything Emma had told me and to file a police report, making sure to make it clear that I was only doing so out of concern for her safety, not out of spite or revenge. He also suggested that we ask the court to lift the restraining order given the new circumstances. I took his advice. I went to the police and filed the report explaining Robert's behavior as described by Emma and Jack. The officer who took my statement was sympathetic, but he warned me that unless Emma or Sarah came forward themselves, there wasn't much they could do. It was frustrating to hear that, but I understood. As much as I wanted immediate action, I knew the system had its limitations. In the meantime, my lawyer has filed a petition to have the restraining order lifted. We are still waiting for the court's response, but I am hopeful that the judge will see the gravity of the situation and lift the order, at least temporarily. Throughout this process, I have kept in touch with Jack. He has been the only stable connection I have with my family, and, honestly, he is the one I worry about the most. He is just a teenager caught in the middle of all this mess. He confirmed everything Emma had told me, and he was scared. Robert has started to let off steam more often, shouting at Sarah and Emma for the smallest infractions. Jack has been trying to keep a low profile, avoid confrontation, and not incur Robert's wrath. He told me he feels like he's walking on eggshells in that house. It pains me to hear him so scared and powerless. I have assured Jack that I am doing everything I can within legal limits to help them. I have also made it clear to him that if he ever feels that he or anyone else is in immediate danger, he should call the emergency services immediately. I even suggested that he find a way to keep some cash and essential items hidden in case he needs to leave quickly. He has been incredibly brave throughout all of this, but I know that he is carrying a lot of weight on his young shoulders. This situation is far from resolved, but at least now I feel like I'm doing something. I know there are legal restrictions, but the fact that I have started to take steps to help, even if indirectly, gives me some peace of mind. It's a waiting game now, waiting for the court to respond to the petition, waiting to see if Emma or Sarah have the courage to communicate officially, and waiting to hear from Jack about what is happening in that house. I will update again when there is news, but for now, I just want to thank you all again for your advice and support. It's been a difficult few months, but knowing that there are people out there who care enough to offer their thoughts has made it a little more bearable. Hopefully, things will start to improve soon. Update 2. Hi everyone, I wish I had good news, but things have escalated dramatically, and I'm still trying to take in everything that's happened in such a short space of time. I feel like the situation has taken on a life of its own, and I've been caught up in a whirlwind of events that I could never have anticipated. A few nights ago, I received a frantic call from Jack. He was whispering, clearly terrified, as he told me that Robert had lost control after discovering that Emma had been sending me messages in secret. According to Jack, Robert had gone into one of his uncontrollable rages. He grabbed Emma's phone and smashed it against the wall, shouting at her and accusing her of trying to betray him. When Sarah tried to intervene, Robert also turned his fury on her, insulting her and threatening them both. Jack told me that Robert's anger was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was almost as if something had broken inside him. You can imagine how I would have reacted. I was paralyzed with fear for my children. Jack sounded terrified, and it took a huge effort for me to remain calm. I told Jack to hold on and call the police immediately, giving them Robert's address. Despite the restraining order, I couldn't just sit and wait, so I made the decision to drive there myself, even though I knew it could get me into legal trouble. It was a risk. But at that moment, my concern for the safety of my family outweighed any consequences. When I arrived at Robert's house, the police were already there. They were ordering Robert to come out, but he was not obeying. We could hear screams from inside the house, and my heart sank as I imagined what might be happening. Everything seemed to be moving in slow motion. I was standing at the edge of the entrance when I heard a loud crash, something breaking inside the house, and then the front door flew open. Emma ran out first, her face covered in tears, sobbing uncontrollably. She ran straight towards me, and before I knew it, she was in my arms crying and begging me to forgive her. It was as if time had stopped in that moment. Jack and Sarah followed close behind, their faces pale, with fear written all over them. We stood there for a few seconds, huddled together, a broken family trying to find some comfort in each other after what felt like an eternity of pain and betrayal. Meanwhile, the police had arrested Robert inside. They took him out in handcuffs, and believe me when I tell you, he was furious, shouting all kinds of things at all of us, making wild threats that were terrifying and heartbreaking to hear. This was the man who had taken everything from me. And now, here he was, completely out of control, still trying to exert his power, even as the police were taking him away. The relief I felt when Robert finally left was overwhelming, but it was immediately overshadowed by the emotional aftermath. The police took statements from everyone. Emma, Sarah, and Jack detailed months of verbal and emotional abuse. Emma confessed that Robert's manipulation and control had started almost from the moment she moved in with him. He had isolated them, made them financially and emotionally dependent on him, and slowly eroded their sense of self-worth. She admitted that everything she had said in court about me, about the alleged abuse and my anger issues, had been lies, prompted by Robert and Sarah, who at the time were trapped in their own distorted version of reality. Hearing Emma admit her false testimony was both heartbreaking and infuriating. On the one hand, it was a relief to finally hear the truth, but on the other, it broke my heart to realize how deeply Robert had manipulated my family. Emma's false testimony took away everything I had built in my life. Sarah also broke down and apologized to me, confessing that she had let her desire for a better life blind her to Robert's true nature. She admitted that she had been wrong not only to believe Robert's lies, but to drag Emma and Jack into them as well. After the police left, and Robert was taken into custody, reality began to set in. The restraining order against me was lifted immediately, and my lawyer is now working to reopen the divorce case. Sarah and Emma may face legal consequences for their false testimonies, something that none of us had anticipated. Although I have mixed feelings about this, it is clear that justice must prevail, not just for me, but for everyone involved. At the moment, Emma, Sarah, and Jack are staying with me in my small apartment. It's cramped, a far cry from the big house we used to have, but right now, we need to be together. The atmosphere is tense, especially between Sarah and Emma, who are dealing with their own feelings of guilt and shame. Jack, despite being the youngest, seems to be handling things better than the others. He's just happy to be out of Robert's house and back with me. Emma is devastated. One minute she is apologizing over and over again, and the next, she locks herself in the room, barely saying a word. The trauma of what happened clearly weighs on her, and I know it will take time, perhaps a long time, for her to heal. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't completely forgiven her, but this is not the right time to make her feel guilty about everything that happened. As for Sarah, she is trying to be strong, but I can see that she is struggling too. She has constantly apologized, admitting that she allowed herself to be manipulated by Robert's wealth and charm, and now she is paying the price. I am trying to remain optimistic, but it is not easy. The emotional scars of the last few months run deep, and I know rebuilding trust is going to be a long and difficult process. But for now, I'm just grateful that my children are safe and that we are slowly rebuilding our relationship. We're taking things one day at a time. I've made appointments for all of us to talk to a therapist because we all have a lot to process, and I know we can't do it alone. There is still a part of me that is angry at Robert, angry at Sarah, and yes, even angry at Emma for what she put me through. But there is also a part of me that is hopeful that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to move forward as a family. I will keep you all updated as things progress, but for now, I just want to thank you all again for the advice and support. It has been a difficult road, but I feel like we will find a way through this. Update 3. It has been a whirlwind of a few days since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments with you all. I cannot express how surreal the last few weeks have been. There has been so much to process, and although things have started to stabilize, we are far from out of the woods. First and foremost, Robert has been formally charged with multiple counts of domestic abuse, coercive control, and criminal threats. It is a huge relief to know that he is in custody, and the prosecutor has assured us that given the overwhelming evidence in our testimonies, it is highly unlikely that he will be released on bail before his trial. Just hearing that brings some peace of mind, knowing that for now, at least, he is not in a position to harm anyone. Robert's arrest sent shockwaves through the community. especially considering the image he had built for himself. No one ever suspected the real person behind the wealth and charm, but behind closed doors, he was a different man, one who thrived on control and fear. His trial is still some way off, but I feel confident that justice will be done. Many of you asked what the next steps would be for me and my family, and although things are still complicated, we have made some progress. Emma, Sarah, and Jack still live with me in my small apartment. It has been a strange adjustment. We went from being a fragmented family, each living our own lives, to being under the same roof again, facing our shared past and trying to rebuild from scratch. We've had several long and emotional conversations, and both Sarah and Emma have apologized countless times for everything that happened. Emma, in particular, is carrying the weight of intense guilt for the role she played in the collapse of my life. Her false testimony during the divorce still haunts her, and I can see how it is affecting her mentally and emotionally. Some of you asked how I have managed to forgive her, and to be honest, it hasn't been easy. There are moments when I still feel the sting of betrayal, and I remember her words in court, the words of my own daughter who painted me as a monster. But when I see the pain in her eyes and how deeply she regrets what she did, I can't hold on to that anger. She was manipulated just like the rest, and while that doesn't excuse what she did, I can understand it. She's my daughter, and despite everything, I still love her. Rebuilding our relationship is going to take time, however. Trust is not something that can be repaired overnight, and I have made it clear to both Emma and Sarah that we have a long road ahead of us, but I am willing to walk that road with them, one step at a time. One important change we have made is to agree to attend family therapy sessions together. I'm not a big fan of therapy, but this was a great suggestion from many of you, and I took it to heart. We need professional help to work through the deep emotional wounds we have inflicted on each other, and I'm hopeful that over time, therapy will help us heal. It's not easy. Some of the sessions have already brought up a lot of painful memories, but it's necessary. We need to face the past head on if we are to have any hope of moving forward. Emma especially has been struggling. She withdraws at times, clearly battling with her inner demons, but she is trying. That's all I can ask for right now. Effort. On the legal side, my lawyer has been exceptional. Thanks to Emma's retraction of her previous testimony and the new evidence of Robert's abusive behavior, we have been able to reopen the divorce case. The judges indicated that the original sentence, which was heavily biased against me due to the false accusations, will most likely be overturned. This means I could get back some of what I lost, my financial stability, my home, and, most importantly, my dignity. It's a strange feeling, to be honest. I never thought I'd have the chance to set the record straight, and although it's bittersweet knowing how much damage was done, I'm grateful for the opportunity to make things right. Sarah has also been cooperative in this regard. She has agreed to a much fairer division of our assets, recognizing that the initial arrangement was a direct result of the lies and manipulation. She has expressed deep remorse for how things unfolded, especially for her role in encouraging Emma to testify against me. She now admits that she was carried away by the fantasy of a richer and better life with Robert, and that clouded her judgment. We are still working through our issues, and while I don't see us getting back together, we are both committed to raising Jack in a healthy way. She has moved into a small apartment of her own and is looking for full-time work to support herself, which is a big step for her. As for Emma, she has decided to move in with me permanently. She has taken a break from college for now to focus on her mental health and work on rebuilding our relationship. It's a difficult situation. Some days are better than others. She is struggling with guilt and shame, and I think she is finding it hard to forgive herself for what happened. I have told her that I don't expect her to be perfect, and that healing takes time. She has also volunteered to make a formal statement to the court about the false accusations, fully aware that this could lead to legal consequences for her. I am proud of her for stepping forward and taking responsibility, but I am also concerned about how this will affect her emotional stability. This whole ordeal has had a huge impact on her mental health, and I just want her to be okay. Many of you expressed concern for Jack, and I want to thank you for that. Jack has been my rock throughout this ordeal. I have been amazed by his strength and maturity. He is only 17 years old, but he has handled this situation with a level of composure that I did not expect. He has been a constant source of support for me, and I think in a way he has become the glue that holds our family together. He is excited at the prospect of spending more time with me now that the custody agreement is changing, and he has expressed relief at being free of Robert's toxic influence. There were also many questions about whether I have truly forgiven Sarah, and the answer is complicated. I don't know if I can ever completely forgive her for what she did, for turning our children against me and almost destroying my life. But at the same time, I can see how deeply she regrets her actions, and I don't want to cling to bitterness. For Jack's sake, we need to maintain a civil and cooperative relationship. She has made mistakes, huge ones. But I believe she is genuinely trying to make things right, and for that, I am willing to work with her. I know we still have a long way to go. The trauma of what happened with Robert, the guilt over the false accusations, and the slow process of rebuilding trust. These are all things we will be dealing with for a long time to come. But despite it all, I feel a cautious hope. We are taking small steps towards healing, and I am trying to focus on that rather than the mistakes of the past. If nothing else, this experience has taught me the importance of honesty, forgiveness, and the strength of family. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this ordeal. I cannot begin to explain how much it has meant to me to have this community to turn to during my darkest days. Your words gave me strength when I needed it most, and for that, I will always be grateful. I may not update again, but I wanted you all to know that your advice has made a real difference in my life and in the lives of my family.